This is Long Way to the Top, and I'm your host, Shane Bryan. Aussie rock guitarist Ronnie Simmons has had an incredible career working with Richie Ramone from the Ramones, Faster Pussycat, and currently touring with Rose Tattoo. He's got a new band, the Redback Spiders, and a brand new single, and he joins me on the show. Ronnie, welcome to the show.
Hey, mate. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, look, you've had an amazing career. I guess just to sort of kick things off, just for our listeners, we all heard the news that Angry wasn't that well, that he's back in hospital. Is he okay?
Everything's okay. He's not in hospital. He's home. He's all good.
Fantastic. Excellent. Well, it'll be great to see him and you guys back on the road again. And how's the tour been going so far with Rose Tattoo?
Oh man, like since I jumped on board with them at the start of last year, like I'm loving it. Like we gel so well. And I'm seeing parts of, being Aussie born and raised, but living over in the States for 10 years.
Yeah.
I got to a point where I realized I've kind of seen more of America than I have of my own country. And now after being in the Tats, I'm getting to go places I'd never been before. And I'm just loving every second of it, getting in the trenches, like hand-to-hand combat with, Australia. I love it. Like the fans are so great. The band's on fire, and I feel very at home. It's lovely.
Yeah, and it's funny because when I heard that you joined the Tats in 2023, but then a year before that you were actually with Faster Pussycat, which is very much. I mean, it's kind of like glam rock to like down and dirty pub rock.
From a certain point of view, yes, but I can guarantee you, because I spent a lot of time on the Sunset Strip, all those bands, you name it, Guns N' Roses, Faster Pussycat, LA Guns, Jet Boy, the Rose Tattoo fingerprints are all over those songs.
Yeah, right.
Like they all had those early records, and Junkyard still cover Nice Boys and Rock and Roll Outlaw all the time, as well as BNR, of course. But it was very, very interesting learning a lot of these songs by these bands, and especially coming from an Aussie rock background, going, I can see that. And it's really cool. Like it's really, really cool, and especially like Faster Pussycat, like they're kind of the inventors of, I guess, what you call sleaze rock. And they were in that category with Jet Boy, Guns N' Roses at the Cat House. That's very different to Poison. A band like Faster Pussycat, they're tough and sleazy. It's not, it's not Poison or,
They kind of come around, that whole sort of era when, you're moving away from Poison, you're moving away from your hair metal bands, and then
things got more street.
Yes, more street,
Like Faster Pussycat and Guns N' Roses, basically, that was the same circle of people, like at the Ricky Rackman's Cat House. So it's one of those things that it works.
Yeah.
And I had a great time out there, but it's definitely really good to be home. Like, because the Tats have been like my favorite band since I can remember.
Yeah.
So to be able to you live away that long. I was the only Australian in the room for a long time. Homesickness, could hit me. And now to come back, like as a member of arguably the most Australian band ever. It's like I'm back and I'm taking it to like a fish to water. I love it.
You're 36 years old, and you'd have to be the youngest member in Rose Tattoo.
Yeah, that's been a reoccurring theme with a lot of bands I've worked with.
Yeah.
So it's
you kind of come in after I guess. They're sort of their heyday, but then you're there during the touring with these bands, like we'll talk about some other bands too, like Richie Ramone. We talk about you did work with Tommy Henriksen from Hollywood Vampires. I mean, you've come in as in touring capacity when all of their songs, they're not trying to break new ground. Their songs are part of a legacy now, and you're there just playing away.
Yeah, it's really, really cool because at the end of the day, like I started off as a fan. Like that's how I got into music. So to be up on the stage and, seeing people's reactions from the stage and just having the time of their life. Like, I'll never forget, we did one gig and it was like I saw a guy who was crowd surfing that I was like, that looks like my dad. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I
was it your dad?
Like, I was just like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, the fact that, I can be a part of something that makes anyone feel that way, like that goosebumps feeling you get when you hear your favorite song, like, it's incomparable. And I don't take a second of it for granted. But of course, it is a job too. I take it very, very seriously because I understand the weight of the legacy that's on my shoulders.
Yeah, yeah. And, you talk about that age difference between, the older and the young up and coming. There's bands like the ones that you've been in, and other bands like Metallica and even Offspring, Linkin Park. They've all got this legacy of older audiences that remember when they first had hits, and then you've got the young ones that are rediscovering this music, going, man, this stuff rocks.
That's exactly it. And I was one of those younger kids 20 years ago. And it's one of those things that if there's any way I can bridge a gap or introduce younger people to new music and, feel an iota of how it made me feel, that means the world to me.
Yeah.
Because that's, and Father Time's an elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to, someone said to me, they're like, you're not exactly reinventing the wheel. I'm like, yeah, consciously. The wheel's awesome. Who wants to reinvent the wheel? The wheel works.
Yeah.
It's more a matter of, putting some new rims on it and making sure a really kick-ass classic car doesn't go out of production.
Yeah.
Because it's, there's nothing like rock and roll. Like that, like I said, that feeling, it's like lightning hits you when your hairs stand up on your arm and it's like a wave over your whole body.
Yeah.
It's the best feeling in the world. And whether, I'm in the crowd watching one of my favorite bands or if I'm on stage playing it, it's like just a part of it means the world to me.
Now, you actually started out busking, in Sydney, in Newtown.
Yeah, when I was about 12 years old.
Wow. And then you're touring with all of these bands. You even toured with like the Screaming Jets. Do you look at that and go, well, it was all part of doing the hard yards busking was all part of that growth into what you are now?
Oh yeah. It's like, in the most humble way possible, I definitely feel like I've paid my dues in that regard.
Yeah.
Like far out, like part of my busking repertoire, it was like Livewire by AC/DC, Rock and Roll Outlaw, Nice Boys by the Tats. I think I used to do Shadowboxer by the Angels.
Yeah.
And then, I got into the Ramones and the Sex Pistols.
Yeah.
And I'd finished school, like I was in, I think, 7th grade at Newtown, and I'd grab my little beat up acoustic guitar and I'd go sit outside the National Bank on King Street, which is like a few doors down from Hum Records. And I'd put a hat out and I'd just sit there and belt away until either my fingers were bleeding or my voice ran out. And, that's how I got into all the music I got into. Because at first I'd average about like $30 or $40, and I'd sit there until basically the sun went down.
Yeah.
And when I got, it was like stacks of coins. I had this like hat full of coins, and I'd go to Hum, and I'd walk up to the CD shop and dump them on the counter, and it'd be like, all right, I'll take Scarred for Life, I'll take All for One, Screaming, and I'd go home, and then I'd learn those songs and then add them to the repertoire until eventually I was doing it one day, and some older guys walked past and went, "You in a band?" I'm like, I'm 15. And they were like, well, let's start a band. And so that's how the transition happened. And it went from sitting on the street, basically yelling at people, bashing on this guitar, then I'm in a band, and then I'm on a stage at a pub. And that's kind of how it started.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And it just shows, do you ever want to go back and busk again every now and then just to read go back to your roots again?
Oh, that's not a bad idea. I might do that down the track. Summer's coming. So
a lot of bands, a lot of guitarists and singers even do that. I know John Butler. He's a little bit different, roots and blues, but he'll always go and whatever town he's performing in, if he's got a spare day, he'll go and busk in the street. And I think it just shows that you're not that you're looking at where you've come from and gone, yeah, okay, that's a really important part of my development.
Totally. And that's very much in my consciousness all the time. So I think that's a really good idea because, the first single I did off my EP, Alone With You, that that was shot on Sydney Harbour. That the main gesture behind that was like, hey, everyone that I've met along the way, this is where I'm from. This is home. Yeah. And, I wanted to kind of share that with the world. But back to, I just remembered a really funny busking story off the top. Just popped into my head. One of the other songs that I ended up closing the set with it in my first band when I was 15. We were called the Skanks. It was very Ramones. Yeah. We all had this haircut. It was very Ramones. But we'd finish our set with the Skyhooks, Why Don't You All Get Fucked? Yeah. And that was in my busking repertoire. And I'll never forget one day someone got really staunch on me. And I would have been like 14, this little tiny skinny kid. And they're like, you can't say that. Like, think of another word. There are children walking around. And I'm going, I'm just singing the song. Calm down. But, oh, man, like they were not happy. No, but it was, and to think back, it's like, to have the balls at that age, just sit there fucking yelling that at people as just walking about that. Like, and also back then, it wouldn't be uncommon for someone to come and just stand there and be there for 10 minutes. Yeah. And, I'd be going through, AC/DC, Tats, Kiss, Ramones, and then they'd be like, you just played the soundtrack to every song I listened to in high school. Here's $20. Keep it up. And I'd be like, oh, wow, great. Thank you. And, like I've never forgotten that stuff. But
it's very important. And, to obviously to then be performing, with someone like Richie Ramone. I mean, how did that come about?
Richie was one of the first people I met when I first went to Hollywood, start of 2013. Yeah. And the band I was with were managed by Vicky Hamilton, but managed like Guns N' Roses, all those bands. And she introduced me to Rodney Bingenheimer and Richie Ramone at Cantor's Deli. So we sat down for dinner. And what happened was then Richie got up and did the Ramones Something to Do With Us at my first show in Hollywood. We did Bar Sinister on a Saturday. So we're like, we just landed and we went straight there. And then we had to play, I think, the next day or something. And that's kind of how we met. And me and him just hit it off instantly and kept in touch. And before I joined his band in 2016, they'd, be like, the Super Bowl's on. We're having, drinks at my friend's house. Do you want to come around and hang out? And we were just mates. I'd be like, yeah, man. And so we just, hang out and shoot the shit. And then in 2016, he goes, my guitarist left. I need a guitar player. Do you want to do it? And it was like, fuck yeah.
Yeah. And you've even got, I mean, that obviously the Ramones influence is showing through on the new single, which we're going to talk about, shortly, because the drummer for the Ramones actually joined you on the single.
Yes. Richie played on the EP. The drummer that played on Alone With You was actually Chris Moy, who was Richie Ramone's drummer. Because what Richie Ramone does live
is different to the Ramones. Yeah.
Well, because what he does live is I'd say it's like 60 or 70% Ramones songs. Because he wrote songs like Somebody Put Something in My Drink. Yeah. Like Smash You. All those songs. Like he was a songwriter as well, like in the Ramones, but because he sings and plays, there's only so long, especially some of the stages we've played are like pretty big. Yeah. There's only so long you can spend at the very back behind a drum kit when people have come to see you. So what Richie would do was he'd start the set behind the drum kit and we do Durango 95, Teenage Lobotomy, Somebody Put Something in My Drink, and a few songs like that. And then what would happen is he'd go to the front of the stage and jump on the mic, and he'd have another drummer that was basically his protege or, Padawan, step in. And Chris Moy was his live and touring drummer. Like we were roommates in hotel rooms, but all around the world. And so come time to do the record, I went to Richie and he's like, how many songs you got? And I got 15 songs. So he goes, all right, that's a lot. How about we split them? I'll do some, Chris Moy can do the rest. And it was sadly the last recording Chris had ever played on because he died of a heart attack last year. Yeah, wow. But Richie played the drums on Little Misunderstood, the new single that comes out October 18th.
Yeah, fantastic. Fantastic.
So
Look, great new song too, I've got to say. I love the sound. It's real. Alone With You we're talking about. If I can say that has a real quintessential 80s rock vibe to it. You know, it's not like, oh, there's a new rock song. You've actually channeled and maybe it's because, you know, the Ramones, Richie Ramones, and you know, it was actually on the album. You've got that influence there.
Oh, definitely. And I've talked about this a bit. It wasn't really a conscious. I just made the record, and I basically wrote the songs and recorded them the way I wanted to hear them. I just went, you know, I wanted to make something that if I heard, I'd go mad, and that's what I did. But definitely looking at it retrospectively, it's, you know, like the joke I make is, you know, I'm caught somewhere between CBGBs and an Australian pub. You know, it's like there's definitely that New York and Ramones influence in there, but there's also, you know, a lot of the Tats, AC/DC, like Divinals. I love all Jets. I love all that stuff. So I guess if you kind of throw the two together, that's what you get.
Throw a little bit of ska in there as well, you know.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's some ska in there as well. Like some of the others, there's a few songs on the record that you're gonna be like, man, this is like Rancid.
Yeah.
And again, it's just the accumulation of all my experiences growing up.
Yeah, yeah. Now the band is called the Redback Spiders, which I love. Very Aussie. Do the Americans understand what a redback spider is? Do they go, what's that?
The quickest I go, it's a cousin of the Black Widow, and they go, right. Oh, okay. But when they Google it, you're like, oh my God. But it was, you know, because I'm very proudly Australian, and you know, even in my time out in the States, it's like I got very known as the Australian guy, and I love that. So come time to pick a band name, I wanted something that sounded tough and like a rock and roll band, but was also Aussie. And you know, I was chatting to the other guitarist, Hayden McGoogan, and I went, I want something that, you know, says we're not here to fuck spiders. And then I went, spider, redback, you know, jumped on, like, it hasn't been done. And then after that, it was, and it's the same letters as Ronnie Simmons. Oh my God, mine. Like, so that's kind of how it came about.
I didn't even think of that. That's really that's clever.
RS and the RS.
Yeah. I mean, there's a few words that have RS in the title, and I don't think that one of them is suitable for your music because it's not.
That you know, that was definitely an afterthought, but it was one of those like, oh.
I really love, you know, your influences that you've got, and that you've grown up with and basically learnt from the Aussie masters, and you know the metal bands, the hair metal bands, if I can say that, in LA. What would you say to say a new up and coming guitarist, or you know, someone who is just sort of learning the ropes? What would you say to them? What advice would you give them to get to where you are now?
Practice. You know, learn that thing inside out till it becomes a part of you. Like, learn music theory, learn your guitar, but also figure out what it is about guitar that's inspired you to pick it up. Like, what artists have inspired you? What do you like about it? Well, okay, what is it about their sound that you like? Okay, if that's the case, what amp do they use? What guitar do they use? What pickups are in that guitar? Kind of reverse engineer all the things you love. But also listen to as much as you can. Like, if you like a band, figure out what they listen to. Like, just immerse yourself in as much as you possibly can that you like, and lean into your strengths, but be aware of your weaknesses. If there's something you're not very, very good at, don't shy away from it. That's what practicing's for. That's what rehearsals are for. But when you're on stage, or if you're in front of people, lean into what you're strong at. And then behind the curtain, you know, if there's anything you can't do, it's, oh, I'm not very good at that. Well, in your practice regime, focus on that. Delegate a little bit of time every day. If there's something you can't do, that's how it works. Eventually you'll get to do it. But figure out, you know, figure out what it is you love about it and what makes it enjoyable. And embrace that, because if you want to do it, you got to love it. You got to love it, and you got to know why you know, it might, it might be easy at first, but it's not an easy road to take. And if you really, really want it, go for it, man. Just go for it.
It's tough. It can be tough. I mean, you talk about long way to the top. I mean, it is.
It is. It's not easy, and it's like you're going to face discouragement. You're gonna face hardship, especially if you want to. People ask me about LA. It's like, well, I jumped on a plane and I moved there with a bag and a guitar, and I just did it.
Yeah.
And it's like, I didn't have a family to call. Like if my car broke down, I can't. There was, mum and dad were across the Pacific Ocean. I had to rely on my relationships and friends and myself at the end of the day. And also keep in mind that no one's ever going to care as much about your music as you are.
Yeah.
And once you have that kind of in your mind at all times, it makes dealing with things a little easier. Like it's very hard to not take things personally. But the reality of not even the music industry, life, like you win some, you lose some. Like it doesn't mean you got to like it.
Yeah.
But just keep that in mind. Like, if you fall, it sounds so corny and cliche, but if you fall off the horse, get back on it. Like, it's for every one win, there could be 99 losses.
Yeah.
But you've got one win.
Yeah.
Just
celebrate the wins.
Celebrate the wins and learn from the losses, learn from the defeats. And, how can I do this better next time? And also accepting sometimes that's just how it goes, But the worst thing that can happen is you put the guitar down and you quit, because then then you're never going to win.
Yeah.
So, but that comes back to, you got to love it, because if you're in it for the wrong reasons, you're not going to last. It's got to be, you have this feeling in here, like, this is me, and just follow that feeling and nurture that. Don't lose it.
You got such a passion for what you do. I love that. I think that's something that we all need to have in everything that we do. Is there any music that you're listening to now that you just go, wow, that's just blowing me away?
Oh man, that's a
putting you on the spot. Sorry.
Yeah, you totally put me on the spot. Oh man, far out. I've been listening to lots of Back to the Scar thing. Jaya the Cat.
Jaya the Cat.
Jaya the Cat. Like, I really dig what they're doing. Like, that's a really cool mix of punk and ska. Yeah. Like, that became my driving music in LA for a while. And I'm actually in touch with the guitarist. We chat, when mutual respect for what each of us do. But they're really, really cool. Far out, it's going to sound odd to say, but I love the new Eminem record. You wouldn't expect me to.
So do I. I think it's great.
That came out, and I was like, yeah, he's just going for the throat. I love that.
Yeah.
But as far as new rock bands coming out, it's been cool to be back in Sydney. Like, there's a young band, Avalanche, that have come out that we've done some shows with.
Yeah.
Like, their heads and hearts are definitely in the right place.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, man, I got to give some more thought. I know the moment we finish this, I'm going to walk away and go, fuck, I just thought of like 10 bands, man. I dig the Louts in Melbourne. I dig Louts. They're cool. And there's another band, Chisel, in the UK, like not Cold Chisel. They're just called Chisel.
Chisel, yep.
Similar vibe of that, real, like, it's almost Sharpie-esque. It's very just aggressive. Like, that's cool. But I'm always on the hunt for new stuff.
Yeah, cool. Cool. Well, look, you've got, obviously your new album, the EP's out. The single is out. You definitely have to check it out. It's called Alone With You. The EP is Bite Part 1.
Yep.
And that's out?
That comes out November 22nd.
November 22nd. Excellent.
The second single drops October 18th. That's Little Misunderstood with Richie Ramone on drums. Yep. And then the EP drops November 22nd, and you can expect Bite Part 2 next year.
Fantastic. I love Alone With You. Can't wait to hear the rest of the EP. Can't wait to hear the new single with Richie Ramone. So make sure you send it over, and we'll take a listen to it and play it when you get it out.
Oh, thanks, mate. Definitely.
Yeah. You guys, the band rocks. I love the new sound, and I've got to say, in terms of up and coming talent, you are an absolute inspiration for what you do. So keep on rocking with what you do.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us on the show. Really appreciate it. Thanks for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Long Way to the Top. Hit plus or follow to subscribe to the podcast, and head over to Facebook at the Long Way to the Top podcast and give us a like. Keep on rocking, and I'll catch you on the next episode of Long Way to the Top.